Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 6 of Spring Body Clean in Mind. I hope you have enjoyed the meal plan. I hope you've enjoyed lymphatic dry brushing and all of the wonderful antioxidants and high fiber and tips throughout this week. I know it's been a very cleansing week for me as well. Today, we're going to be talking about how to colon cleanse. And I just want to speak to how fascinated I am with the colon. The colon is the most densely populated and also diverse populated area in the human body where our colon or microbiome resides. And the colon has this very dependent and also mutualistic relationship with bacteria. If a colon cell is starved of fiber, then the bacteria doesn't make a short chain fatty acid called butyrate. Think of butyrate as being energy for the colon cell, and it's site specific. This is the only location in the body where the human intestinal cell cannot live without bacteria. When colon cells start to die, people get colitis, people get inflammation. And also, without butyrate, people are also more prone to colon cancer. When you look at large epidemiologic studies, there are places around the world who naturally consume more vegetables and also more wildly foraged food, specifically around tropical regions, but also all throughout Asia. And the rates of colon cancer are significantly lower in these places. When you look at largely Western cultures, Australia, UK, major parts of Europe, definitely US and Canada, where we consume a relatively low fiber, low plant diversity, and high meat and animal product diet, um, we see much, much higher rates of colon cancer. So today we're going to be talking about what does our colon need to be healthy and how do we colon cleanse? And I'll be sharing some, personal anecdotes. And again, my perspective on the colon comes from my background in general surgery. As a general surgeon, we do colonoscopies. I do surgery on the colon. I treat Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel disease, and colon cancers and diverticulitis. So I am very, very familiar with the colon and all it has to offer. The colon is about 9 feet long. It starts in the right lower quadrant of your abdomen. This is called your terminal ileum in your cecum. This is also where the appendix lies. And the appendix, its primary function is to help incubate and breed new species of bacteria that then seed your entire colon. So there's drastic differences in the environments that exist throughout your entire GI tract. In your colon is a very unique environment. Not only is it this special relationship between butyrate and fiber and gut bacteria, but there's also this large absorption capacity of the colon. So when we drink water, our stomach absorbs a lot of that water, but also our colon absorbs a lot of this water. So the first thing we're going to talk about here as far as colon cleansing is concerned is water. And water has came up multiple times this week. You want clean water. And if you need to, get your home water tested. Put in a water filter. We want to be careful that we're not drinking water out of toxic plastics like BPAs and BPBs, but instead drink water out of a designated water vessel. So glass is fantastic. I have a horrible habit of trying to carry too many things at once. So I've broken many, many glass water bottles. So I tend to use a stainless steel bottle and I only put water in it. I put my favorite stickers on this bottle and I carry it with me everywhere I go. Water is life. And the role of drinking water is to keep the body hydrated, keep it moving, and really keep this sort of river of stool flowing. So it's very normal for people to have bowel movements at least once per day. If you're eating a high fiber diet and your gut bacteria are promoting this butyrate kind of relationship to your colon cells, the more fiber you consume, the more frequently you're going to be having bowel movements. This is very, very healthy for you. Your liver and gallbladder, remember we were talking about bile acids just a couple days ago, and how your liver is constantly processing and degrading not only your own internal hormones, but also the toxins that we get from our environment. Binding that stuff into bile and excreting it into our bowels, that helps our stool and our bacteria also package it up so we're pooping this stuff out. So, by drinking enough water, you're facilitating this natural excretion of the daily toxins that we're constantly encountering. But also, some of these toxins are also excreted in the kidneys, in the urine. So, it's a difference of what is water soluble and what is fat soluble. And soluble just means can it dissolve in water or in fat? Generally, in nature, those are the two substrates or liquid mediums that we sort of bind chemicals to. Fiber. I cannot talk about colon cleansing without promoting a higher fiber diet. So, colon bacteria ferment complex carbohydrates into short chain fatty acids, which provide energy for colon cells and then binds to water for easier passage in bowel movements. Our plan this week, our meal plan, has lots of fiber in it. We've been eating lentils, we've been eating an array of plants. And so I hope that you have all enjoyed that. I know I sure have. So there's a difference between soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber is what can be mixed with water and then sort of digested, used, assimilated. Again, that soluble fiber is what is largely food for those bacteria. Insoluble fiber almost acts as like a scrubber brush for the inside of the bowel wall. So wheat bran is one, different nuts and seeds and things, cauliflower, green beans, these all have insoluble fiber sources. Most of our plants have a combination of soluble and insoluble. Insoluble is the parts that you can't necessarily digest and absorb. So if you've ever had a bowel movement and noticed there's an entire, or a half-eaten corn kernel or like bean shell in your stool, that's okay. Chew better. That will help, but also that's just the insoluble fiber coating on the outside of that. So think about insoluble fiber as this scrubber brush going through. I also think of like kale stems. Kale stems are very insoluble, while the kale leaves themselves are more soluble. And then enemas. So, enemas aren't the sexiest thing on the planet to talk about. I think colon health in general isn't necessarily the sexiest thing to talk about, but it's incredibly important. So in healthcare, we use enemas in the hospital a lot. We use them when people have constipation, when they haven't had stools after surgeries. And all it takes is one surgery and maybe a little bit of pain medicine to really, really constipate people. Certain people are more prone to constipation than others. In the hospital, we give enemas of molasses and sometimes mixed with milk. I think that this is a fantastic enema to give people because molasses is actually one of the most complex liquid forms of these kind of carbohydrate chains. And so again, the bacteria in the colon, they love fermenting these complex carbohydrates. So when you're thinking about cleansing your colon, there are many different protocols out there. I don't particularly subscribe to any one protocol or the other. I personally have experimented with enemas, specifically coffee and green tea, chamomile, and probiotic capsules. And then I studied my own stool analysis and my own microbiome thereafter. And what happened for me, and again, I just encourage you to be your own scientist. This is, individualized care here. Is to potentially experiment with this on your own. There's many microbiome testing companies now that allow direct to consumer at home stool testing to be done. With me, I was doing organic filtered water coffee enemas. I was doing them about once a week for about 6 weeks. I tested my stool sample before and then after. And what happened was a significant, I mean, we're talking 100 times fold increase in a specific bacterial species called Akkermansia municipalia. Akkermansia municipalia is associated with having a healthy metabolism, a healthy body weight, the lowest risk of type 2 diabetes, and other metabolic diseases related to, again, liver metabolism. So we're talking carbohydrates and cholesterol. And the other thing I love about Municipalia is it lives within the mucosal lining of the gut. And its job is to help your body break down the mucosa that's been there the longest, or the, mucosal. It's almost like, think of it as like a mucus layer. So it's kind of like a snot, snot on the inside of your bowel. And it's a protective coating and it needs to be there. So by doing these enemas, I was just shocked to see have this dramatic increase. And also I felt pretty good. So you feel more energized. And that's why sometimes when you reflect or read about enemas, some medical communities actually think that they aren't healthy because they can promote almost addictive behavior because of the pleasure that's sort of achieved by having them. When I say pleasure from an enema, I don't necessarily mean a sexual pleasure. It's just, I think there's euphoria from being empty. Colonics is essentially an enema under pressure. And I remember several years ago, Kim Kardashian and a bunch of other celebrities were like, they swore by these like colonic hydrotherapies. So again, it can be energizing. It's very helpful. I think enemas are the safer at-home treatment for people who suffer with constipation, as opposed to taking a bunch of laxatives or stool softeners by mouth. So typically, I tell people that you want to make sure that whatever device you're giving yourself an enema with is clean. So you want it to be dry, you want it to be, freshly sort of washed. I just rinse mine with like hot, hot, hot water, and then I let it hang and dry in the shower in room air. That way it doesn't get moldy or anything like that. And then I wash it again before I use it. There's also been an increased popularity in people using other things for enemas at home. Green tea being one, chamomile being another. Chamomile can be very calming. And then probiotic capsules, which you can take any over-the-counter probiotic capsule. You can then put it in a little bit of coconut water and then add that to like some water just to kind of dilute down. And then the idea is you try to hold these substances in. So the colon, what it does, just like the rest of your intestines, is it'll take whatever's in there, it'll get absorbed across the mucosal barrier, it'll get into your bloodstream, and it'll also go straight to your liver. So it's another way to increase antioxidant load to your liver to also help your liver cleanse. What I think is kind of fascinating, but also somewhat discouraging, is again, being a medical doctor, we're constantly trained, evidence-based, evidence-based, evidence-based. Enemas for this aspect of health, this aspect of liver detoxification, while the mechanisms make sense and the biochemistry is there is no research on this stuff. What I have came across is that coffee enemas, what happens is you don't get as much caffeine when it comes to the colon as when it comes to the stomach. So I find that interesting. I think that speaks to kind of the priority that the human body has on trying to absorb as much water-soluble nutrients through the stomach versus through the colon. But it is also neat to think that we can get all the antioxidant benefit from these sort of colonic installations. So I'm going to leave you guys with that, and hope that you have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, of course, about enemas, don't hesitate to, of course, reach out. So there's another substance here that you can drink by mouth that is called bentonite clay. And bentonite clay, I love this substance. It's actually used in the wine industry to refine and pull out dead yeast and toxins made by dead yeast to refine wine before they put it from barrel into bottle. Bentonite clay is an electrically charged powder, and it binds free radicals and toxins so that you can poop them out. Think of it as a magnet. So I think this is helpful for people who maybe have SIBO or have some sort of yeast overgrowth, or maybe you're dealing with like a parasite, or maybe you've been diagnosed with like heavy metal toxicity or something, in because our intestines can also harbor and kind of build up to deposits of heavy metals. You can mix 1 teaspoon of bentonite clay and 8 ounces of water and then drink it. And then you can follow with another 8 ounces of water. This is not designed for daily use. And I mean, I've never personally done this at a frequency. I have done this week because, again, I'm taking extra care here of my colon, and I feel like I had some toxins to cleanse out. Psyllium husk, I think, is another really important part of to be proactive on a colon cleanse. What it is it's largely insoluble fiber, but also partly soluble fiber. Psyllium husk is sure to bulk up your stool. And there are certain protocols out there where you chase bentonite clay with 8 ounces of psyllium husk. And then, depending on your desire, you can kind of repeat that. So you can drink 8 ounces of water, 8 ounces of bentonite clay, 8 ounces of psyllium husk, 8 ounces of water, and then repeat until you see these large casks. And I say it's a cask because it's almost like the way a snake would shed its skin. Your colon and your intestines will start to really shed that mucosal layer, and your stools will get very, very interesting. All right, guys, that is it for colon cleansing. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And again, permission to experiment. And of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor or your naturopathic doctor. I feel like naturopathic doctors are probably most likely to be familiar with these home care practices. Yeah, and blessed journey. May you stay cleansed.